Welcome to the Habits to Goals podcast with Martin Grunburg. It's time to take control of your life. Are you ready to achieve goals faster and more consistently than ever before? You need the Habit Factor. You're listening to Habits to Goals, the podcast that helps you create the habits that lead to success. I'm your host, Nick Polkuski, and here is Martin Grunburg. Martin, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the podcast.
Nicky P, it is terrific as always to be here with you, my friend. How you doing?
I am doing excellent. How are you doing?
Doing very well, and I'm excited to touch on today's topic. But first, give me your GTR.
For me, really what it is just the 4th of July. I had the opportunity to, see the fireworks from my very own balcony, which was really awesome and a lot of fun. So I think that's kind of the big celebration for me.
That's great. America's birthday. And yes. So you're settled into your new crib?
Yes. It was a little bit of a crazy move-in, but we're here and it's going great.
I love it. So my GTR is, I don't know, so there was the 4th of July, and then the 5th of July, there was a little sporting event called the Women's World Cup Final, and it was even one of the players' birthdays, Rapinoe, I believe. In any event, did you happen to see the final?
I did not watch it, but I heard a lot about it. So.
That's great. What'd you hear?
Just about the spectacular, was it hat trick? I forget who even the player was now. But yeah, no, I heard it was just an incredible performance.
It was a phenomenal performance, and I've probably peppered you and the audience here with enough soccer stories and coaching girls, but as a coach of girls and of soccer, this was right up my alley, and it was so perfect for my daughters to actually get this visualization, if you will, of them winning the championship. And yeah, I'll just cut to the chase. So about 3 minutes in, I think it was less than 5 minutes, they were up 3-0. And it was incredible because Japan is known for their defense. They're so defensively sound, but the U.S., and I don't think their coaching, I should say that coaching is getting enough credit, but it was clear the first goal was a corner kick that wasn't high and like your typical corner kick. It was a low grounder, and Carly flew in. And by the way, that's who had the hat trick, Carly Lloyd. She flew in from way outside the box, unmarked, at full speed, and drilled it. So that was the first goal. The second goal was a penalty kick outside the box, bounced around. She was in perfect spot, and she basically volleyed it in. So, and then I'm going to jump to the fourth goal, which was her third goal. She crossed over half field, and again, I'm giving coaching credit. I think they must have shared some tendencies of the Japanese goalie, but she was out a little too far past the box. Carly just crosses half field, looks up, and punched the ball basically from half field. It goes over the goalie's head. The goalie's scrambling to get back, hits it, and just hits it into the inside of the post, so she scores. And that made for her hat trick. They end up winning 5-2, and the rest is history. I love it as a GTR for two reasons. One is there is a fantastic documentary. I'd almost call this a tip. If anybody's a soccer fan or just a teamwork / chemistry fan, which is where this episode is going, there is a documentary on ESPN called The 99ers, and that was of the last women's team with Mia Hamm. I think it's Julie Foudy, and they basically won the World Cup in '99, and it hasn't been done by the U.S. since. And the documentary is incredible, Nick, because what they do is they kind of take you inside the 99 team, and you get to see and understand the chemistry, and then they then move that story to the backdrop, and then they talk about this upcoming team with Wambach and Carly Lloyd, and some of the similarities, and it's really powerful, fantastic documentary. So that leads me to the topic at hand, which is an easy one. Having said all that, it's called Teamwork Makes the Dream Work. Have you ever heard that?
I have heard that phrase a lot, yes.
You have?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I think a guy by the name of John Maxwell can take credit for that. I don't know that to be a fact, but as I say that in my office, sorry, first of all, that's everywhere. Second of all, there's a book right next to me called Teamwork Makes the Dream Work, and it's by John Maxwell. It's just a little something that sits on our coffee table.
I think I have the same book. Actually.
It's phenomenal. Yeah. And the other, as long as we're talking about teamwork, I think this may be Maxwell. Team is an acronym, or I should ask you, team as an acronym, what do you have? Do you have one?
Team
as an acronym. In other words,
together everyone achieves more.
Yeah, so good. Awesome. Yes, and that's all over our office as well. Together everyone achieves more. So we're going to talk about, is this true? Is it false? Why? What makes a good team? What are some of the important things to know about a team, and maybe what might kill a team? Does that sound good?
Sounds great. Sounds like
got to do that all in about 15 or 20 minutes. So, so when I say team, what does that mean to you?
For me, a team is really a group of people who are coming together for a shared goal.
That's awesome. I think you just read that from your book.
I've heard that definition a time or two.
No, that's great. And I think what is important to know about a team, or at least three things that kind of just come to mind is, and we've talked about a couple of these before, but it's always probably good to reiterate some stuff. So first is, I don't care if you're raising a child or you're an entrepreneur. It's the classic, it takes a village, right? Mm-hmm. And so this idea that the more people on the team that can share resources, it's just going to make your life easier. And I do. I mean, I love the whole, I guess you probably don't have kids yet.
No.
So that became quite evident to me. Once you have kids, the grandparents, if you're lucky enough, they fly into action, and then they're, either they're there with their time, or they're buying all sorts of stuff you need, or, who knows. But it really sheds light on this idea that it takes a village. The second thing, and one that hits home, is this idea that we talked about the maturity continuum. You remember that?
Yes.
And that comes from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And so the maturity continuum says, what is the highest form of maturity? Not to put you on the spot, but for purposes of discussion, do you recall?
I believe it had something to do with cooperation something
excellent.
Around that.
Yeah, interdependence.
Yes, there you go.
So the lowest form, starting at the ground, is probably where I should have started. That's dependence, right? Mm-hmm. And then the middle ground, which I thought was the the end zone. I thought this was the highest form of maturity, is independence. So you have dependence, and then you move to independence. But the problem is that is not the highest form of maturity. The highest form of maturity, Stephen Covey is quick to point out, is its interdependence, and that's where the bridges are built, the championships are won, the wars even are won, right? It's from the ability to work together. So I had a funny clip. I think you've told me I can't play a clip from the web.
It's not super easy to hear. If you send it, we can definitely link it. And
Okay. It's super funny. You remember the scene in, I think it's The Hangover, with where he's talking about the wolf pack?
oh yes,
Do you remember that?
I do. I do.
Oh man, I want to play it. So he's like, I was a one-man wolf pack, and then I guess his his sister marries that guy, and anyhow, and then he's telling them how he's added them to the wolf pack, and so A, that's really funny, and B, it reminds me of a great quote, which is basically the strength of the team is in each member, and the strength of each member is in the team. So, and I saw that related to a wolf pack, which led me to somehow The Hangover.
Nice.
So we have it's this idea that you're going to be better off, A, when you can work with people. There's just no denying it. And the second is this idea it's the highest form of maturity. And the third is it's the strongest form of resilience. In other words, under extreme pressure, so to speak, right? Duress, humans do much better when they're surrounded by other humans, right? Where there's a team involved. In fact, I can talk about it, or you can use the example of, for instance, the Navy SEALs. I think I mentioned that it was probably close to a year ago. I did this one-day training. Is that ringing a bell?
I don't think so. I don't think we talked about this.
Okay. Well, it was really cool. So one of the things they did to kind of weed out the quote-unquote weak, and by the way, they were taking it easy on us, but they had about 100 guys lock arms and then walk backwards to the shoreline and then lay our heads back into the icy waves and then just lay there. And what happens is as the waves rush in, people begin to panic, and then the water pulls you out a little deeper, and you're tied to the guy next to you and then the other guy next to you. So if you got a big heavy dude or you're getting sucked in faster, but the point is it's a great litmus test for them to quickly see who I mean, for lack of a better word, is not mentally equipped, for that kind of stress, right?
Yeah.
So pretty heavy stuff, but what they do, and the reason I'm sharing that is because what happens is by weeding out and putting them through intense training and constantly weeding out the weaker-minded people, so to speak, what they get ultimately is this team of people, which they shared with us, which was they're so committed to the guy on their left and on their right that they refuse to let them down. And by that, they have a team that, they even said that companies and other industries will spend so much money to try and kind of dissect and reverse engineer what makes these SEAL teams so great, right? Everybody wants to kind of deconstruct it. Right. But that was one of the things that stood out. And I think it's a great example of when a team is working at its highest level. Certainly the SEAL teams are a great example, right?
Absolutely.
So that leads me to, what do you think makes, and this is all so easy for you, I know, but I'm going to, for purposes of discussion, what makes a team work or teamwork work?
I'm not.
Just throw out a few things, if anything comes to mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to be willing to take risks within the team, to throw out ideas. You have to be willing to also come to an agreement. So you have to like air your grievances, but then decide on the best course of action to move forward and just align with the team, if that makes sense.
Yep. No, it does. And it reminds me, one of that documentary I spoke of earlier, they would showcase almost their teamwork to the point where they were famous for how bonded they were. So there's a commercial that showed, that I never remember seeing back in '99, where one of the members of the team is standing in the dentist's office, and dentist is like, "You need 2 cavities." And then the girl behind her stands up and goes, "Then I'll take 2 cavities." And then or 2 fillings. And then the girl behind her says, "I'll take 2 fillings." And it's pretty much exactly what you're saying. So it's this we versus me mentality, right? Mm-hmm. And I love it. And I love what you said about there's this transparency or being willing to show some vulnerability. That certainly makes for a strong team. A few things I have listed: harmony, right? Vision and alignment of mission. So if you were to kind of reverse engineer that or look back at the SEAL team, they have obviously alignment of mission, shared values. They understand their vision. Everybody's in sync. And there's not no friction. It alludes to kind of what you were saying. It's this idea that a little friction is good. And even moderate, as long as it's done in a way where it's for the we versus the me.
Right, exactly. And you're not necessarily attacking the individual, you're attacking like problems.
Brilliant. Yep. Good stuff. So anything else you want to share there before maybe we talk a little bit about things that will kill teamwork? Oh, by the way, I want to say this one thing about values. And I keep saying, I'm pretty sure I mentioned this before, but a hiring, I would call it a best practice. One of the things we did, I think I did mention this because we did an episode on values, but in hiring, I put like 100, wasn't that many, let's say 50 values on a piece of paper. I think it was more than that. And then I had them circle 10 and then order them in priority. So, family might be 1, freedom 2, et cetera. But the reason I think that's essential is companies have their own unique culture, often driven by the founders or the presidents or whatever, but then trickles down out of the culture, and really it's almost the other way around. The values form the culture. But either way you look at it, when you're bringing in new people, you want to make sure there's values alignment, of course. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a fun exercise, comparing values.
Yeah, well, and that's I think super important when it comes to teamwork.
Yes, sir. So what might destroy teamwork? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's lots of different things. I think just that lack of trust. I don't know. For me, when we talk about destroying teamwork, it always comes back to that book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. I don't know if you've ever read that book.
I have not, but I love it. And I know you've mentioned that, actually.
Okay, yeah. It's a great book. But basically, the trust is really like the foundation, essentially, of any team. It's the lack of trust that is kind of that, if that's not there, you can't move up in the pyramid at all.
That's huge. And trust is a value.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. No, it's funny. It's excellent. Anything else?
I mean, there's lots of different things. When people start putting their ambitions ahead of the teams, awesome. When you put your personal things ahead of the good of the group or the actually accomplishing the goal, that's going to destroy a team right away too. Beautiful.
Me versus we. Exactly. Yeah, the lone wolf mentality. I wish I could play that soundbite. Just Google listener/reader what do you have to Google? Because I have it up. Hang on. Yeah, The Hangover, Wolfpack Speech. Wolfpack Speech. So yeah, this lone wolf mentality, me versus we, my contribution is better than yours or more important. I just heard of a tragic kind of partnership breakup, and a lot of that was behind it. It was, one guy thinking, or gal thinking she's doing more than the other partner, Mm-hmm. And a lot of times that may or may not be true, but the question is, where's the appreciation for the other partner and what they're doing, and is there a real appreciation for it? So it reminds me of this quote, this idea that you're absolutely and totally unique, just like everyone else. Right?
Yes, exactly.
So having that empathy or capacity to really listen and really understand, if that's lacking, I see it all the time in teams where it's just, I'm the one doing all the work. Why the hell isn't anybody else working so hard? A lot of times there may be some truth to it, but I think a lot of times people are getting shortchanged. I think something that's essential to teamwork on some level is a strong leader, right? It leads to this idea of vision and mission, but really a leader's job is to promote and create other leaders. And it's also this idea to mediate and help share the perspective and identify when those things are fraying. So for instance, going back to that, where one person thinks they're doing more than another, I think an astute leader or an experienced leader will step in and say, hey, yeah, no, I hear you, John, but let's not forget X, Y, Z, mm-hmm. W, et cetera. So I think strong leader is obviously paramount too. And I guess the military would probably support, the military model would support that premise. What else do I have here? I think poor interpersonal skills will kill teamwork. Probably goes without saying, but this ability to listen and really, it leads me to remember what habit number 5 is by chance.
Not specifically.
Okay. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. And that's what I think teamwork is built on. And at its best, it leads to habit 6, which right?
Probably. Yeah.
Synergy.
Okay,
Synergy.
Yes.
Probably. So there you have it, man. I think those are some threats to teamwork anyways. And I just love this discussion. I bought in to this many, many moons ago. One of the companies I'm involved with, I've had partners for 20, knock on wood, 20 plus years. And I think if you have the right team, and a lot of times you have to make it right, it's extremely powerful. So I would just say parenthetically that in this case, one of the keys, I think, to this partnership that I'm referring to is there are 3 partners, not 2. So one, depending on when the issues arise, one person, and sometimes it rotates, becomes the mediator, if you will. And then the other benefit is they're senior to me by a number of years, 20-ish. So I think that has given me added just terrific value in terms of mentorship. So I've been really fortunate to be paired up with these guys. And like I said, longer than many marriages, that the reality is, quote unquote, that at some point all partnerships fade somewhere, sometime, just due to time, if nothing else. But of the ones that I've seen have really struggled, a lot of times it's two partners and it's a 50-50 relationship. And I'm not saying that's the kiss of death. I'm just saying it would be a whole other podcast to go down the road, kind of a checklist, what you could do to mitigate. Different podcast. I want to end on a happy note, which is teamwork makes the dream work. And do you have anything you want to share? I'm feeling like I should crack the book and look for something while you share something.
No, well, I think ultimately this is something that no matter what kind of work you're doing, where you are in life, like there are teams all around you, even if on the most basic level, your team at home, for those people in school, it's the people in their classroom ultimately could be considered some sort of type of team. So I think this is an important thing to really consider and to look to optimize in your life.
That's brilliant. And I would just add, because you just reminded me, so there are those people that think, well, look at the tennis player or the golfer, they are not on a team, they're all alone, and that would be a terrific fallacy, because they have trainers and coaches, and they would be the first to tell you how deep their team is and how they could never be there without their team.
Absolutely. So
it doesn't matter if you're in a real team or I don't want to call it a fake team. It's a fabricated team. Yeah. And then I think for the reader, listener to transition, this could be about, as you said, the company, the school, the community. This can be about who's your CPA, who's your spouse, what are you doing to listen to them, to create synergy, to give back, to contribute, right?
Right, exactly.
So, and teamwork makes the dream work. So there you go, bud.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Martin, and we'll talk to you next episode.
Yes, we will. Very soon. Thanks, bud. Cheers.
And thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Habits to Goals podcast. I'm so excited that you could be here with us as we explore the habit factor and how habits can actually change your life. We'd love to hear what your big takeaways were from this episode. Simply go to thehabitfactor.com/podcast. You can find all the episodes, all the previous episodes, and the show notes there, as well as all the resources that were mentioned in this episode of the podcast. I also really want to encourage you to go subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or Stitcher or SoundCloud or whatever podcast player you listen to, because we are delivering a brand new episode to you each and every single Monday, and I don't want you to miss a single one. So simply go to thehabitfactor.com/iTunes and leave and subscribe there. We'd also really encourage you, if you enjoy these episodes, the best way to show your appreciation is to simply go leave a review on iTunes, because that helps so many other people find the podcast and realize that this is the podcast for them that could really have an impact in their life, their business, and in just their happiness and wellness. So thank you for tuning into this episode. Remember to go out there and create habits that lead to your success.